The princess disappeared into the night with 2 infants and no guards. Floating high above the planet's surface, it glimmered in the starlight, a network of towers and sky bridges, orbiting gardens and shimmering spires that reflected the glow of the twin suns. People moved through transparent walkways, hovercars zipped between towers, and drones flitted about, attending to every task with precise efficiency. Solara was humanity's crown jewel, a symbol of what humans could build when their minds and hearts worked as one. And at the very center of it all was Princess Alara, the heir to the throne, known not only for her intelligence and beauty, but also for her courage that sometimes bordered on recklessness. Tonight, the city was alive with celebration. The royal palace's main spire, taller than any other structure, gleamed with streams of lights that danced in the darkness. People from every corner of the empire had gathered to honor the peace that Solara had maintained for decades. There was music that seemed to vibrate through the very air, laughter that echoed across the sky bridges, and fireworks that painted the darkness in golds, reds, and blues. Yet, amid the merriment, something unusual was about to unfold, something that no one could have predicted. Princess Ilara had always been private about her personal life. Only a few trusted advisors knew that she had given birth to twins, a boy and a girl, after the mysterious disappearance of her partner years earlier. No one else was aware. The infants were kept in a secluded wing of the palace, guarded, of course, but mostly by the princess's own watchful eye and her few loyal attendants. She had learned long ago that power attracted attention, and attention often brought danger. As the celebration reached its peak, Alara excused herself from the crowd. She moved through corridors few had ever seen, her steps quiet against the polished floors. The twins, swaddled in soft blankets, slept peacefully in a cradle that floated gently above the floor. She had prepared for this night carefully, knowing that there were those who might try to use her children as leverage. Suddenly, an alarm flashed on a screen beside the cradle. It was a subtle warning, a signal that someone had breached the palace's outer perimeter. Alara's heart did not race in fear, but in readiness. She had faced dangers before, though none like what she suspected this could be. Quietly, she activated the small drone she carried in her palm, sending it into the corridors to scout ahead. Its small camera flickered, revealing nothing unusual. Yet instinct whispered to her that this was no ordinary intrusion. Minutes passed, and then the alarm escalated. Lights flashed red. A voice, calm yet firm, echoed through the hallways. "Security breach. All units respond." Alara did not panic. Instead, she calmly wrapped the twins in a special harness designed for rapid movement. She had thought of every possibility, every way the palace could be compromised, and had prepared for them. The harness fit snugly across her chest and back, leaving her arms free to maneuver. She whispered to the infants, as she often did, "Stay close, little ones. Mama knows the way." She moved toward a hidden exit, one that led not to the public corridors but to a series of maintenance shafts and transport tunnels. These passages were narrow, lined with pipes and cables, and completely unknown to most palace staff. They twisted and turned through the spire like a secret vein. Only Alara knew the route, and she had memorized every turn and hatch since childhood. As she entered the first tunnel, the soft hum of the city above faded, replaced by the mechanical whispers of the tunnels themselves. Behind her, distant shouts and the sound of rushing hovercars reached her ears. The palace guards had been alerted, and she knew they would follow any intruder, but not her. She had ensured that her own departure would appear accidental, giving her the precious minutes she now needed. Alara's mind was sharp, calculating. Who would try to take her children? Who knew about their existence? The empire was vast, but secrets were hard to keep. Alien factions had long watched Solara, curious and envious of human achievement. And there were always rogue elements, humans willing to betray their own species for power or profit. Whoever had planned this had underestimated her. Whoever thought she would be caught was about to be proven wrong. As she navigated the winding tunnels, the first sound of pursuit reached her, a faint humming that grew steadily louder. Drones. They were sleek, designed for stealth and speed, capable of tracking heat signatures even through walls. Alara had accounted for them. She activated a small device hidden in her belt, which sent out false heat signatures, confusing the drone's sensors. A few turned and drifted away, searching empty corridors while others hesitated, unsure of which way to go. She pressed on, moving faster but carefully, mindful of every step. The twins stirred slightly, sensing her tension but did not cry. She spoke softly to them, her voice a gentle shield against the harshness of the world outside. "Almost there. We are almost there. Mama has a plan." The tunnels eventually led to a maintenance shaft that opened into the city's lower orbital transit system, a network of high-speed tubes and magnetic lifts used for moving supplies across the spire. Here, the real challenge began. The tubes were fast, and timing had to be perfect. Alara activated the harness's magnetic stabilizers, which clung to the walls, allowing her to move vertically with ease. Above her, a group of small robotic patrols appeared, scanning for movement. Alara held her breath, waited for the right moment, and then leaped from one wall to another, using her momentum to avoid detection. The patrols buzzed past, missing her entirely. Her heart remained steady. She knew she could not afford a single mistake. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every corner could conceal a threat, every shadow a trap. Yet, Alara's confidence never wavered. Her years of training, her understanding of human psychology and technology, and her deep love for her children gave her clarity. She was not merely running. She was leading the future of humanity, carrying it in her arms. Finally, she reached the outer perimeter of the city, where the orbital defenses gave way to open space. The view was breathtaking. Stars stretched infinitely in every direction, and the twin suns bathed the city in a golden light. Yet she had no time to admire the beauty. Her destination lay ahead, a small shuttle hidden in the maintenance bays, designed for emergencies. It was compact, unremarkable, and perfect for a quick escape. As she approached the shuttle, a shadow fell over the floor. A figure emerged, tall and imposing, but not a soldier. The figure was clad in sleek black armor, eyes glowing faintly. Alien or human? Alara could not tell immediately, but she recognized one thing. This was the moment she had prepared for. The figure spoke, its voice calm, almost amused. "Princess Alara, you are clever, but cleverness alone will not save you." Alara did not flinch. She stepped closer, holding the infant securely. "You underestimate humanity," she said softly, yet firmly. "We survive because we refuse to be beaten and because we fight for what matters. And what matters most to me are these two." The figure paused, analyzing her. And in that pause, she acted. With a swift movement, she activated the shuttle's engines remotely. A burst of light illuminated the tunnel as magnetic fields lifted her into the air. The figure lunged, but it was too late. The shuttle accelerated, leaving the city behind, and the figure vanished into the shadows. Outside the shuttle's window, Solara's lights shrank to tiny points. Above and below, stars stretched endlessly. Alara held the twins close, whispering softly, calming their startled movements. She allowed herself a small, relieved smile. They were safe for now. She had outsmarted fleets, drones, and unknown enemies. One woman carrying two infants had vanished into the night, defying the impossible. Yet, even as relief filled her, Alara knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast and threats would follow. But she also knew something that no enemy could ever match: human courage, ingenuity, and determination. She was human. Her children were human. And in this vast cosmos, that was a power no one could truly defeat. The shuttle's navigation system locked onto a distant, uncharted moon, a place where no one could find her. Typhon. Here, among the ruins of humanity's past, she would prepare for what was to come. Here, she would teach her children the meaning of survival, the strength of the human spirit, and the power that came from refusing to yield. For now, though, she allowed herself a quiet moment, rocking the infants gently in her arms as the shuttle glided silently through the stars. The princess had disappeared, the city was in chaos, and humanity's future was hidden in her hands. And somewhere deep in her heart, she knew one truth. No matter how dark the night, the light of human courage would never fade. The shuttle moved silently through the void, a small vessel gliding among the stars, carrying a mother and her children away from everything they had ever known. Princess Alara stared out through the viewing window, watching Solara shrink behind her, a shining jewel fading into the distance. She had escaped the city's finest guards, outwitted drones, and faced an unknown adversary. Yet she knew the danger was far from over. Whoever had sent the figure in black would not let her go so easily. The twins, a boy named Kale and a girl named Lyra, were nestled against her chest, their soft breathing steady. Though infants, they seemed to sense the tension around them, their small hands clutching her tunic as if drawn to the strength of her heartbeat. Alara whispered to them softly, not because they could understand, but because the words comforted her as much as them. "We will be safe. Mama will keep you safe. No one can take us from each other." The shuttle's navigation system had been pre-programmed for one destination, Typhon. It was a moon in a distant system, one of the few places in the galaxy that remained largely unexplored and unclaimed. Long ago, humans had attempted colonies there, but the harsh surface and unpredictable storms had driven most settlers away. Still, remnants of their technology remained, hidden beneath the rocks and craters. Alara had studied the maps, memorized the coordinates, and chosen this place because it was isolated, difficult to find, and perfect for starting anew. As she piloted the shuttle, a warning light flickered. Sensors detected movement. Her pursuers had tracked her through the warp corridor. She frowned. It was one thing to outsmart the palace drones, but it was another to face skilled mercenaries, or perhaps aliens, capable of navigating the vast void to intercept a single shuttle. She pressed a series of buttons, activating the shuttle's stealth systems. A thin layer of energy shimmered around the vessel, bending light and masking heat signatures. The intruders might follow, but they would not know where to look. Hours passed, and the twins slept peacefully. Alara allowed herself a moment to rest her mind, reviewing her plan. Typhon was harsh, but it had advantages. Ancient colonies had left behind fusion cores, hydroponic systems, and even defensive drones buried in vaults beneath the surface. If she could access them, she could create a small, self-sufficient sanctuary. There she could teach her children to survive, to think, and to grow strong in ways that no ordinary human upbringing could provide. Suddenly, the shuttle's alarm screamed again. She glanced at the readings. Multiple ships had emerged from warp, flanking her shuttle. Their designs were unfamiliar, sleek and black, faster than anything the Empire possessed. Her stomach tightened. These were not ordinary pursuers, they were precise, highly trained and clearly determined. Alara's mind worked quickly. She had trained for crises, studied combat simulations, and learned to trust her instincts. She engaged the shuttle's evasive thrusters, weaving through asteroid fields and debris belts. The pursuers followed, relentless and methodical. Each maneuver she made was a gamble, but she relied on one advantage that her enemies did not: human unpredictability. While machines calculated paths, humans could improvise. While aliens relied on rigid patterns, humans could adapt. She activated the shuttle's holographic projectors, creating multiple decoys of herself in the vacuum of space. The decoys mimicked her movements perfectly, broadcasting heat and energy signatures that would confuse even the most advanced sensors. The enemy ships hesitated, fired at false targets, and allowed her a small window to slip away. Despite the chaos, Alara's thoughts remained with the twins. She adjusted their harnesses, ensuring they were secure. She had to maintain calm, not only to protect them physically but to set an example. Children sensed fear and she could not allow them to feel it. She whispered again, "We are almost there. Just a little longer, my loves. Mama knows the way." The shuttle's engines roared as it entered Typhon's orbit. The moon was a barren landscape of craters, jagged cliffs, and swirling storms. Its surface glowed faintly under the light of its twin suns, and the atmosphere was thin but breathable. Alara guided the shuttle to a hidden crater, one known only from ancient maps. There, buried beneath layers of rock, were the remains of humanity's first attempts at colonization. Fusion cores, dormant drones, hydroponic domes, all waiting to be discovered and activated. Landing was delicate work. Typhon's gravity was low but uneven, and hidden crevices threatened to tear the shuttle's hull. Alara maneuvered carefully, descending into the crater where ruins lay in shadow. She found a hatch partially buried in rock and used the shuttle's magnetic winches to pull it open. Dust and debris filled the air, but beneath the surface was a chamber untouched by time. Ancient lights flickered faintly as the system slowly activated, responding to her presence. Inside, she carefully placed the twins on a padded platform, checking their breathing and comfort. The chamber was secure, but it was only the first step. She needed to restore power, activate defense systems, and create a sustainable environment. The twins watched her with wide eyes, as if sensing the importance of the work. Alara began exploring the chamber. Panels lined the walls, labeled in the old human language. She quickly deciphered the controls, bringing fusion cores online, activating water purifiers, and rebooting old drones that had lain dormant for decades. The air gradually warmed, and lights illuminated the space, revealing storage rooms, hydroponic gardens, and sleeping quarters. Typhon's moon might have been harsh, but humans had left a foundation strong enough for those who knew how to use it. Days passed, each filled with work and vigilance. Alara taught herself how to repair ancient systems, calibrate old drones, and maintain the fragile balance of life in an isolated environment. She monitored the skies for any signs of pursuit. The alien, or human, ships had not yet returned, but she knew it was only a matter of time. Preparation was her only safeguard. The twins began to explore under her careful supervision. Even at a young age, they displayed curiosity, intelligence, and a quiet determination that amazed her. Kale reached for buttons and levers, mimicking her actions, while Lyra studied the drones as they moved, fascinated by their small mechanical limbs. Alara smiled, realizing that the future of humanity was already taking shape within them. They were not ordinary children. They carried traits that might allow humans to survive challenges no one else could imagine. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Alara noticed movement outside the crater. She activated sensors and cameras, her heart rate steady but alert. Several ships hovered above, scanning the surface. They had found her. She quickly assessed their capabilities, faster than before, more numerous, and clearly designed for precision strikes. The intruders were closing in, but she was ready. Alara activated the defense drones. Small but formidable, they patrolled the perimeter of the crater, scanning for threats, ready to intercept any approach. She reinforced the energy shields, old but surprisingly effective, creating a barrier that would give her time to respond to an attack. The twins watched her work, eyes wide but trusting. She knew she had to maintain calm for their sake and her own. When the first shots hit the shields, she was prepared. The energy deflected most of the projectiles, but debris rained down. Alara moved quickly, issuing commands to the drones. Each strike was met with precision, each maneuver carefully calculated. The attackers underestimated human ingenuity, assuming the ancient systems would fail. But humans were never predictable. Even in ruins, they adapted, improvised, and survived. The confrontation lasted hours, with Alara and her drones defending the crater from superior forces. Slowly, the attackers withdrew, confused and frustrated. They had underestimated her, underestimated the resilience of a single mother defending her children with nothing but determination and remnants of old technology. Humanity's power was not in fleets or weapons alone. It was in courage, intelligence, and the refusal to yield. When the ships finally retreated, the twins clapped their small hands, delighted by the display of drones moving and defending them. Alara laughed softly, feeling a surge of pride. She had survived again, but more importantly, she had taught the twins something essential. Humans were capable of facing impossible odds and emerging victorious. Alara knew the galaxy would not rest. She understood that the future held challenges far greater than a single night of pursuit. Yet she also knew a truth that no enemy could take away. Human spirit, courage, and ingenuity were forces that no alien fleet, no machine, and no tyranny could ever fully control. She had survived against impossible odds, and now, on Typhon, she would prepare her children to do the same. The moon's surface glowed under the light of the twin suns as Alara looked out over the crater, holding her children close. They were safe for now, but their journey had only begun. In the silence of the moon, far from the Empire, far from Solara, she whispered to them again, "We are human, and humans never give up." The stars stretched endlessly above, and for the first time in days, Alara allowed herself a moment of peace. The pursuit would come again and she would face it, but she knew one thing with certainty. Wherever humanity went, it would survive, adapt, and endure. And with the twins by her side, she was ready to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. The moon of Typhon was harsh, unforgiving, yet strangely beautiful in its starkness. Craters stretched into jagged horizons, and dust storms whispered across the barren surface. Princess Alara stood at the edge of her hidden crater, watching the wind scatter light from the twin suns. The sanctuary she had discovered was no longer just a shelter. It was a place of learning, of growth, and most importantly, of preparation. She had transformed the ancient human colony into a living fortress, a cradle of survival for the most precious beings in the galaxy, her children. Kale and Lyra were growing quickly, their eyes reflecting both curiosity and determination. Even as toddlers, they seemed to understand that the world outside was dangerous, yet full of opportunity. They moved carefully through the corridors of the ruins, exploring with cautious excitement. The drones, which Alara had revived and modified, hovered around them like silent guardians, reacting instantly to any potential threat. The twins laughed as they watched the drones dance and spin, and Alara felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of pride and hope. These small humans, so fragile in appearance, were already learning the essence of survival. Alara spent her days repairing and improving the ancient systems. She had activated fusion cores, hydroponic farms, and energy shields, creating a sustainable environment that could withstand both the elements and attacks from above. Every night, she would check the perimeter sensors and cameras, analyzing potential threats. The ships that had pursued her before had not returned, but she knew better than to assume they were gone. Out there in the vast darkness, enemies were patient. They would wait, they would watch, and they would strike again. One day, while the twins played near the central chamber, Alara noticed a flicker on one of the external cameras. Shadows moved across the barren landscape outside, unnatural in their formation. Her heart quickened, not with fear but with focus. Whoever these intruders were, they had learned her location. She called the twins to her side and activated the defensive drones. The air filled with a low hum as the drones powered up, ready to intercept any approach. The first attackers arrived at the crater's edge, a small fleet of black ships, sleek and fast, designed for precision. They did not shoot immediately. Instead, they circled, scanning, calculating. Alara's fingers flew across the control panels, issuing commands to her drones. Energy shields hummed to life, covering the crater like a protective dome. The first wave of shots hit the shields and bounced harmlessly away. She had anticipated this. They had underestimated her again, assuming that the ancient systems would fail against modern technology. As the attackers probed further, Alara realized she could not rely on defense alone. She needed strategy, ingenuity, and adaptation, the hallmarks of humanity. She instructed her drones to create decoy patterns, moving in unpredictable ways to confuse the enemy. Some drones projected holographic images of Kale and Lyra, making the attackers hesitate. The intruders fired at the illusions, wasting precious energy and time. Alara smiled, knowing that every moment bought her children more safety. Hours turned into a tense dance. Alara moved through the control room, monitoring every angle, adjusting every parameter. She was exhausted, yet energized. Each successful maneuver reinforced a simple truth. Humans could overcome even the most advanced technology through intelligence and adaptability. The attackers, though more numerous and faster, could not anticipate the creativity that flowed through her mind. Suddenly, one of the external cameras picked up movement closer to the crater. A group of small alien units had disembarked from their ships, moving cautiously across the surface. They were humanoid but clearly not human, their movements precise and almost mechanical. Alara did not panic. Instead, she activated a series of underground traps, hatches that opened, releasing smoke and noise, forcing the intruders to retreat. Kale and Lyra watched in awe as the drones responded instantly, defending their home with uncanny precision. As night fell on Typhon, the twins slept, exhausted by the day's excitement. Alara took a moment to walk among the corridors of the ruins, reflecting on how far they had come. What had started as a desperate escape had become something more, a testament to human resilience, to courage, and to the instinct to protect what mattered most. Here in isolation, she was not just surviving, she was thriving, teaching her children lessons that no ordinary school could offer. The next day brought new challenges. Systems that had been dormant for centuries began to fail under strain, forcing Alara to improvise. She repaired broken circuits using scavenged components, rerouted power through alternative channels, and even reprogrammed some of the defensive drones to anticipate patterns she could not manually monitor. Each success reinforced a growing realization. The human mind, when pushed to its limits, could achieve what seemed impossible. The twins observed her every move, absorbing lessons in problem-solving and creativity, even without understanding every detail. Then, as if to test them further, the intruders returned. This time, they did not rely on ships alone. They had landed closer, sending a dozen humanoid units toward the crater, moving with precision and coordination. Alara assessed the situation carefully. She could not engage directly without risking the twins, but she could use the terrain to her advantage. Typhon's surface was treacherous. Craters, jagged rocks, and sudden drops offered natural barriers. She guided the drones to create false paths, drawing the intruders into traps where rocks fell from above or hidden energy fields slowed their advance. The battle unfolded like a game of chess, each side anticipating the other's moves. The intruders were skilled, but they had not accounted for human unpredictability. They were forced to retreat again, their formations breaking as they struggled to adapt. Alara's eyes sparkled with determination as she watched them retreat. Humanity had survived yet again, not because of brute force, but because of intelligence, creativity, and unwavering courage. As the dust settled, Alara turned to the twins. Kale, wide-eyed, pointed at the drones. "Mama, they fight like us. he said, his small voice filled with awe. Lyra clapped her hands, laughing as one of the drones hovered close, performing a graceful spin. Alara laughed softly, feeling a deep pride swell within her. These children, though small, were already beginning to understand a fundamental truth. Humans were capable of remarkable things, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Over the following weeks, Alara focused on teaching the twins more than just survival. She taught them observation, problem-solving, and resourcefulness. Every broken circuit, every failed system became a lesson. Every encounter with the harsh moon or the drones was an opportunity to grow stronger. Slowly, she began to notice unusual traits in them. Kale seemed to anticipate the movements of the drones, directing them intuitively during minor simulations. Lyra had an uncanny ability to detect subtle changes in the environment, noticing threats or weaknesses that Alara herself might overlook. Alara realized that the twins carried something extraordinary, a latent potential that, combined with human ingenuity, could surpass what even she had imagined. They were not just children. They were the beginning of a new chapter for humanity, a generation that could thrive where others might fail. And if she could nurture them here, away from the threats of the galaxy, they would grow into leaders capable of guiding humanity into the future. One evening, while monitoring the sensors, Alara noticed a new development. A massive fleet was approaching, larger and more diverse than any force she had faced before. It was clear they had brought reinforcements, ships from multiple factions, united in their pursuit of her and her children. She did not flinch. Instead, she saw this as an opportunity to teach the twins the ultimate lesson, that even the most overwhelming challenges could be faced with courage, strategy, and human spirit. Alara activated all defensive systems. Drones patrolled the perimeter in tight formations. Energy shields flared into full strength, and the ruins themselves became a labyrinth of traps and obstacles designed to confuse and delay the attackers. She instructed Kale and Lyra to observe, to think, and to learn, guiding them through simulations that mirrored real combat without endangering them. The twins responded eagerly, their young minds absorbing every detail with astonishing speed. The attackers arrived, expecting an easy conquest, but Alara had turned the ancient colony into a fortress that no one had anticipated. Drones moved like shadows, intercepting intruders before they could reach critical systems. Energy fields redirected projectiles, while hidden barriers forced the enemy into choke points. Even the terrain itself became an ally, as Typhon's jagged surface funneled attackers into predictable paths. Hours passed in a tense standoff. The attackers were relentless, but they were disoriented, frustrated by the ingenuity and adaptability of a single mother and her children. Slowly, they began to retreat again, unable to overcome the combination of human strategy, resilience, and the unexpected abilities of the twins. Alara allowed herself a rare moment of satisfaction. Humanity had prevailed, not through superior technology, not through numbers, but through the strength of the mind and the courage to act when others hesitated. As night fell on Typhon, Alara held Kale and Lyra close, watching the stars stretch endlessly across the sky. She whispered to them softly, "Remember this, my loves. The universe is vast and dangers are many, but humans are stronger than they seem. Courage, intelligence, and heart, these are our greatest weapons. You carry them, and one day you will teach others to use them too." The twins, eyes wide with wonder, nestled against her, sensing both her love and her strength. In the silence of the crater, far from the Empire, far from Solera, Alara understood a profound truth. Humanity's greatest power was not in fleets or weapons, but in its spirit. And with the twins by her side, she was not just defending the future, she was shaping it. Above them, the stars shone, silent witnesses to the triumph of the human spirit. The sanctuary on Typhon had become more than a refuge. It was a symbol. It was proof that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans could adapt, endure, and prevail. And as Alara held her children close, she knew that the story of humanity was far from over. It was only beginning. The twin suns rose slowly over Typhon, casting long shadows across the jagged surface of the moon. Princess Alara stood at the edge of the crater, the wind carrying fine dust across the landscape, swirling in chaotic patterns that mirrored the storm of thoughts in her mind. The intruders had returned, larger and more determined than ever. Their ships now formed a vast armada, sleek and black, stretching across the horizon like a moving wall. But Alara was not afraid. She had faced impossible odds before, and every challenge had taught her more about the resilience of humanity. Typhon was no longer just a refuge. It had become a fortress, alive with energy and strategy, and she had the twins by her side. Kale and Lyra had grown quickly, learning from her, observing and absorbing the lessons of survival and ingenuity. They were no longer merely children. They were human catalysts, small yet potent reminders of what the species could achieve. The intruder's lead ship hovered above the crater. A holographic projection appeared, an alien commander speaking in a calm, almost taunting voice. "Princess Alara, surrender the children and your resistance will end. Refuse and you will face annihilation." Alara's eyes narrowed. "You underestimate humans," she replied, her voice steady and unwavering. "We survive because we adapt, because we think, and because we fight for what matters. You cannot defeat what you do not understand." She activated all the defensive drones, their small forms darting across the perimeter, ready to intercept intruders. Energy shields hummed to life, forming a protective dome over the crater. Hidden turrets emerged from the terrain, aimed precisely at the enemy ships. She had anticipated this moment for weeks, preparing for every possible scenario. The intruders may have numbers, speed, and advanced weapons, but humans had something they could never replicate: unpredictability, creativity, and spirit. The first wave of ships advanced, firing energy beams that struck the shields. Sparks and debris erupted where the shots hit, but the shields held firm. Alara had modified the ancient human technology, using redundant energy circuits and self-repairing nodes. Every hit on the shield activated a countermeasure, a ripple of energy that redirected or absorbed attacks. The attackers were frustrated. They had expected easy victory, yet every assault was met with resistance beyond their calculations. Kale watched the drones move and reposition, his small hands gesturing as if guiding them. Alara observed quietly, amazed at how naturally he directed the defensive units. Lyra, on the other hand, focused on the environment, pointing out weaknesses in the terrain and alerting her mother to changes in the intruders' patterns. Their instincts, combined with the training Alara had provided, made them a formidable team. She realized that this was more than survival, it was evolution in action. Humans adapted, and now the next generation was learning faster than anyone could anticipate. The intruders grew bolder, sending landing teams to breach the crater directly. They moved with mechanical precision, expecting the ruins' defenses to fail. But Alara had anticipated every possible entry point. Hidden traps sprang to life, retractable spikes, energy nets, and holographic decoys that led the intruders into false passages. Each advance was met with a combination of ancient technology and human creativity, forcing them to retreat and regroup repeatedly. Hours turned into a tense battle of wits. The twins observed intently, sometimes laughing at the clever tricks their mother's systems performed. Kale's small fingers traced diagrams in the dust, planning strategies alongside Alara. Lyra mimicked her mother's commands, noting patterns in the drone's movement and predicting intruder actions. Even in their youth, they were learning the essence of human ingenuity, the ability to solve problems quickly, adapt to changing circumstances, and use intelligence over brute force. Alara realized the intruders were frustrated not only by the defenses, but by the unpredictability of humans. They had expected calculations and rigid responses, but humans could improvise, creating solutions in real time that no machine could predict. Every retreat of the attackers was a lesson. Humans survived because they thought, because they cared, and because they refused to surrender even when faced with overwhelming odds. As the sun climbed higher, Alara decided it was time to take the initiative. She activated hidden transport tunnels within the crater, sending drones in swift, unpredictable sorties that targeted the intruders' ships. Some drones emitted bursts of energy that disabled engines temporarily, while others used holographic projections to create false targets. The attackers, already worn from repeated failures, began to scatter, unsure where the real threats lay. Then Alara unleashed her final strategy, a synchronized maneuver using the twins. Kale and Lyra, guided by her instructions, coordinated the drones with uncanny precision. Kale anticipated attack routes, while Lyra predicted weaknesses in the enemy formation. Drones moved like shadows, striking with speed and intelligence that even the advanced alien technology could not counter. The intruders, overwhelmed and disoriented, began to retreat in disorder. Alara watched as the last of the enemy ships pulled back into the void. For the first time, she allowed herself a deep breath. Humanity had prevailed. Not through raw power, not through numbers or firepower alone, but through courage, intelligence, and unity. Her children clapped in delight and she smiled, feeling both relief and pride. They had witnessed the human spirit in action, and they had participated in it. That evening, Typhon's crater was quiet. Alara walked among the drones, checking systems and ensuring that the sanctuary remained intact. The twins followed, mimicking her actions, their small hands tracing circuits and panels with curiosity. She realized that they had absorbed lessons that could not be taught in schools or training rooms. They had learned by doing, by observing, and by experiencing the challenges firsthand. They were the embodiment of what humanity could become: resilient, creative, and courageous. Alara reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the sudden disappearance from Solara to the relentless pursuit across space, they had survived impossible odds. Each step had tested her limits, yet she had prevailed. And now, on Typhon, she had built more than a sanctuary. She had built a proving ground, a place where the human spirit could thrive in isolation, and a home where her children could grow into the leaders humanity needed. The twins had grown more confident with each passing day. Kale showed an early understanding of strategy, directing drones with logic and precision. Lyra displayed a remarkable sense of environmental awareness, noticing subtle changes and potential hazards long before Alara could. Together, they were learning faster than even she had imagined. In their young minds, she saw the promise of a new generation, one that could carry humanity into the future with the same courage and ingenuity that had sustained her through every challenge. Weeks passed in a rhythm of work, exploration, and preparation. Alara continued to strengthen the defenses, improve life support systems, and teach the twins essential survival skills. She reinforced the energy shields, upgraded the drones, and even began designing small training simulations for the twins, miniature scenarios where they could anticipate threats, plan strategies, and act with precision. Each exercise built their confidence and sharpened their minds. Then, one night as the twin suns set, a signal reached the sanctuary, a weak transmission, almost imperceptible. It was from Solara. The Empire had learned of her survival and the twins' abilities. They sent a message not of command, but of respect and recognition. Alara listened carefully, understanding that her actions had shifted perceptions. Humanity, even within its own species, had come to respect ingenuity and courage over mere obedience. Alara transmitted a response, her voice firm yet filled with hope. We survive, not because of fleets or armies, but because of courage, creativity, and unity. Humanity will endure. My children will continue what we have begun here. And we will show the galaxy that humans are never to be underestimated. The transmission ended, and silence returned to Typhon. But it was a different silence now, not one of fear, but of confidence. Alara held the twins close, feeling their small hands against her chest. They were no longer just children. They were the next chapter of human resilience, the living proof that even in isolation, humanity could flourish. Months passed, and the sanctuary grew stronger. The ruins were fully restored, energy systems stabilized, and the environment made sustainable for long-term habitation. The twins became more capable every day, learning not only survival but leadership, strategy, and adaptability. Alara watched them with pride, realizing that she had not only protected them but empowered them. They were ready for the future, and the future was vast. Then one day, scouts returned, ships from distant systems, curious, cautious, and respectful. They had observed humanity's triumph on Typhon and wished to learn, to understand how a single mother and two children had outwitted fleets and defended a sanctuary against overwhelming odds. Alara greeted them, sharing her knowledge and the lessons of ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. Humanity's reputation spread not through conquest, but through example. As she looked at the twins, now more confident, more capable, Alara whispered softly, "This is only the beginning. The galaxy is wide and humanity is ready. We will survive, we will endure, and we will thrive." The twins smiled, understanding in their own way that the universe was a place of challenge, but also of opportunity. The twin suns rose again over Typhon, casting light across the crater and illuminating the restored sanctuary. Princess Alara stood tall, her children by her side, and for the first time she felt the full weight of what they had achieved. Humanity had faced impossible odds, adapted, and emerged stronger. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now it had learned a lesson it would never forget. Above, stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the triumph of the human spirit. The princess, once hunted and alone, now held the future of humanity in her hands. Kale and Lyra, the children of courage and ingenuity, looked up at her, ready to continue the story. Together, they had turned fear into strategy, isolation into opportunity, and survival into triumph. And so, the legend of Princess Alara and her children became a testament to humanity itself. Small, fragile, and yet unstoppable. Across the stars, wherever humans went, they would endure, adapt, and thrive. The galaxy had been warned, and humanity had proven its truth. The human spirit could never be conquered. The sanctuary on Typhon stood as a beacon of hope, ingenuity, and courage. Princess Alara, holding her children close, smiled at the horizon. The journey had been long, the challenges relentless, but they had prevailed. Humanity's story was far from over, it was only beginning. And with the twins ready to lead, the stars themselves seemed to wait, eager to witness the rise of a species that refused to be defeated. The princess disappeared into the night with two infants and no guards.